We're live on West Central Web TV here in Warrensburg, Missouri at the Multipurpose Building, and today is 11/11/11, and Kenny Goff, this is only going to happen one time, the 11/11/11, isn't it?
Well, I think so.
Kenny Goff is with us.
Lifetime.
Yes, in both of our lifetimes. I'm going to get your title correct here. American Legion Department of Missouri Commander Kenny Goff, and of course local resident of Clinton, Missouri, and former neighbor. And it certainly is good to see you here at this Veterans Day ceremony. American Legion. Tell our viewers about the American Legion.
Well, the American Legion was founded in 1919. In fact, our post was chartered in 1921, May 4th, I believe, in Clinton. And it's got several programs that we're quite proud of. Boy State, which is held here in Warrensburg. The Girl State program is also held here. And Missouri has one of the best Boy State and Girl State programs in the whole United States. We also have American Legion Baseball, which the World Series was just finished, and it's held in Shelby, North Carolina. And as you know, American Legion Baseball is quite popular throughout the United States, and a lot of Major League ball players have played that. We also have our junior sporting shooting program. We have Cadet Patrol, the Law and Order Fireman Awards that we give out, oratorical contests.
So what do y'all do in your spare time?
We're quite busy, and we're quite proud of the programs we do in the American Legion, and all service organizations. They have good programs. We help the veterans. We're trying to get the younger veterans involved because it's there. We got them now. They got to take care of the next generation.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. How's membership in the American Legion? I know I'm a VFW member, and I know we struggle sometimes, and we do membership campaigns and drives and things. Is it you pretty much have the same issue, right? The younger guys aren't coming in?
Yes, and that, I look back at myself when I was, because they have kids, and when you're working full time and you have kids, it's really hard to fit that in there, and we understand that, and it's just. We've got to go out and we've got to hustle and we got to get them in. But actually, there's people that are our age that aren't members of any veterans organization, and that's the ones we need to get involved because they have the time to help and volunteer their service.
So where you might be in the United States or anywhere around the world, you can certainly get a hold of any American Legion post in Missouri. How does somebody get a hold of you if they want to contact?
They can call me at 660-351-2184, and I'll direct you, or you can get on the internet and go American Legion Department of Missouri or whatever department you want to do, and usually they all have websites, and they will, if you want to contact someone, they have a link there for post locator, and it'll take you directly to the post that you're looking for.
So just basically American Legion, Google it, and
right.
You can come find a post near you.
Right.
Okay. Kenny, thanks a lot for your service, and thanks for participating in the ceremonies today.
Well, thank you for being here, Bob.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right.
As we continue our live coverage here on West Central Web TV, of course, today's guest keynote speaker is going to be Brigadier General Vanderham, the 509 Bomb Wing Commander from Whiteman Air Force Base. And guest speaker will be Congresswoman Vicki Hartzler, Missouri's 4th Congressional District. She's expected to be here pretty quick. So our live coverage will continue. The ceremonies are about to begin around 11 o'clock this morning right here. Thanks for joining us. Very exciting day, particularly for Vietnam area veterans, but also for all veterans in the area.
Absolutely. We are so honored to be able to host this event, and we have several military and legislative dignitaries who are going to be in attendance. But more importantly, we have an excellent representation of our Vietnam era veterans and veterans as a whole.
All right, then we'll do their
today's ceremony starts at 11 o'clock, so we're just a little bit ahead of this, but we're doing some final rehearsals now to get ready for this.
All right, after you've been introduced, you'll march all the way around.
Place here today. Can you give me just a little highlights?
Sure. Brigadier General Vanderham will be the 11 o'clock keynote speaker, and Congresswoman Hartzler will be our guest speaker. And following that, we have the 2 p.m. dedication of our new Military and Veterans Success Center, which we're most proud of.
So tell us what that's going to be all about. What does that mean to veterans and to active service members?
Well, I will be housed in that area, as well as our local VA representative, Ron Pearson, from the Missouri Career Center. So for our military and veteran students on campus, this provides them an area to come, to study, to bond. We'll have our student veteran organization meetings in that area. Also, for veterans as a whole, they'll be able to come in and meet with Ron Pearson, the VA rep, about resume building, interviewing skills, and job hunting.
Outstanding. Well, I know you've had a lot of planning leading up to this day, and we thank you very much for that, and thanks for allowing us to come cover it for you, too.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it, and thank you for your service as well.
Thank you very much. Delilah Nichols with us today as we continue our coverage of the 11-11-11. I know you're busy, so go right ahead and you can exit
Right,
exit stage left, all right? Great day today. We're seeing lots of veterans, particularly those from the Vietnam era, and again, it's a great day to be celebrating this Veterans Day, 11-11-11. Now, this ceremony here at the multipurpose room at the multipurpose building at UCM is presented by several people. The Warrensburg community, of course, American Legion Post 131, VFW Post 2513, the University of Central Missouri, and Whiteman Air Force Base. Veterans Day, still serving America, 11-11-11. And on this Veterans Day, we celebrate the lives and honor the memories of the many men and women of our military who gave the ultimate sacrifice while protecting our nation. We realize there are no words that can properly reflect the amount of love, respect, and honor that we hold deep in our hearts for them. We hope you enjoy our ceremonies today. We hope to catch up with another couple of dignitaries as our coverage continues here on West Central Web TV. How are you, Vicki?
Oh, I am great, and I'm so excited to be here on this 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th year.
It won't happen again in our lifetimes.
Oh, that is right, and we're so proud to be able to honor our veterans today.
It's great to have you with us, and we're excited about hearing what you have to say today. I know that you've struck up a really good relationship with Whiteman Air Force Base, and particularly Brigadier General Vanderham.
Oh, he is fantastic. I'm so honored to get to work with him on behalf of our men and women in uniform and our national defense. We're so proud of the good work that Whiteman is doing for our national defense and making an impact worldwide, and all of the dedicated individuals working there. It's very much a cause to be proud, and we're so thankful for their service.
Well, this is a great day for the Vietnam-era veterans, but we're, of course, honoring all veterans in the military that have served our country. It's really a great day.
It absolutely is. I mean, my dad was in the Army Reserves, and you just grow up with a special heart for those willing to go and lay it all on the line for freedom and liberty that we enjoy here in this country. And so this is a great day to pause and to say thank you.
Well, thank you for your help today in making this a very special ceremony for the guys. I know they're really going to enjoy it.
Oh, I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And by the way, this is off the topic of today, but I want to thank you on behalf of the Lake of the Ozarks property owners for your work on the FERC project.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about an onerous government overreach when you, as an agency, require the destruction and order the destruction of 1,200 homes around the Lake of the Ozarks. It is outrageous, unbelievable. And we're very pleased with the order that came down yesterday that they're going to relook at this whole issue. But believe me, I'm going to stay very vigilant on this issue, and we're going to keep looking at it to make sure that our property rights aren't destroyed and taken away.
Well, we had Claire McCaskill on a conference call yesterday and got the word from her, and I know that it spread pretty quickly down there.
Yes, well, we're very pleased at the initial announcement, but I'm going to continue to proceed with the legislation and look at other solutions that may be needed down there. This is a complex issue, and we're not going to stop until everybody's property rights are guaranteed.
Well, thank you. I didn't mean to catch you off guard on that.
No,
but
that's fine. I'm glad to share about that.
It's a hot issue and one that affects a lot of people in the state of Missouri, not just our local listeners. So
that's right. There's all 50 states have homeowners down at the Lake of the Ozarks, and we discovered once this came about that there are 7 other lakes across the country where FERC is undergoing similar orders, and it is absolutely ludicrous. So we have got got to rein in this runaway federal agency and get them out of our lives so that we can continue to enjoy the blessings of liberty that we have here in this country.
We've been talking with a few of those other lake area associations and so on, and they're following our lead. So, again, thanks to you for taking the lead on this, and of course, Senator Blunt and Senator McCaskill as well.
Absolutely. This is something we're all united on as a Missouri delegation, and we're going to stand strong for our citizens that we have the honor to represent and serve.
Okay. Thanks again, and
Thank
look
you.
forward to hearing what you have to say today.
Thank you very much.
Congresswoman from the 4th District, Missouri, Vicki Hartzler with us today. That was quite unexpected, I must say. We were hoping to get a chance to talk to her, but we did get a few minutes with her, and we sure appreciate that. Oh, here's Olin Park, State Commander of the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars. And Olin, we're about to get the ceremony started here pretty quick, but wanted to give you equal time. We had Kenny Goff on a little while ago. Tell me about the VFW. What's your biggest challenge out there?
Our biggest challenge of VFW is probably maintaining and establishing our patriotism within our country and honoring our veterans.
Now, Kenny was saying that they're trying to recruit, I guess, the younger veterans that have come back from Desert Storm, or maybe some veterans who have just not gotten involved at all. And we really need them to get involved, don't we?
Oh, certainly do. Membership's always important. Without membership, it's hard to maintain any organization. Our younger veterans have got to realize that we're here for them, and we're here to support them and to honor them and support those that aren't even serving yet.
You know, the camaraderie and being able to talk to somebody who has had the same experience as you, that in itself is worth the price of membership, I think, isn't it?
It certainly is. Particularly, I would think with our young troops, they are going to be more collaborative about that experience than perhaps those a little older.
There are VFW posts all over the state of Missouri, and I know there's probably one central point where someone who might be interested could get in touch. What would you recommend they do?
If someone's interested in joining the VFW, you can go on the website. It's www.vfwmo.com, and I believe you can indicate where you have interest in it. We'll follow up. Usually it's maybe directed to me, but we'll get a post in touch with you. Deeply interested in supporting these veterans, making sure that our country remains strong and our glorious future is assured.
Well, thank you for your service and for what you're doing now for the entire state. Olin Parks, the state commander for the VFW in the state of Missouri, we thank you for coming today.
Thank you, brother.
And thanks for your service. All right, we'll continue our coverage here as we get ready for the ceremonies to begin in just a few minutes here at the Multipurpose Building at the University of Central Missouri, 111111. And we thank you for being here with us on West Central Web TV.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the President of the University of Central Missouri, Dr. Charles M. Ambrose, I'd like to welcome you to our Community Veterans Day Ceremony. I am Lieutenant Colonel Chris Legedal, Professor and Chair of the Department of Military Science and Leadership. Sharing MC duties today is the Commander of American Legion Post 131, Alex Slocum.
This morning, we are here to honor all our veterans who have served their country honorably. As a special part of our program, we will honor our Vietnam-era veterans. This year is the 50th anniversary of our country's military involvement in Vietnam. During this ceremony, we will post and retire the colors, sing the national anthem, and play taps. If you are a veteran, you may render the hand salute or place your hand over your heart. We have photographers and camera crews who will be taking photos and recording the event. You are welcome to move about, take pictures of your favorite veteran, but please do not interfere with our photographers or camera crews.
At this time, please stand, if you're able, for the posting of the colors, the singing of our national anthem, and our opening prayer.
Singing our national anthem today is Miss Lauren Smith, a UCM sophomore from Warrensburg.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets spread glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Would you join me in prayer? Our God, whether drafted or volunteered, followed a family tradition or were the first to do so, they all proudly bear the name veteran. They have served to the four corners of our globe for the cause of freedom. Some welcomed home as heroes, others were not, but all proudly bear the name veteran. Today, our God, America pauses to remember, to honor, to acknowledge the hard work and sacrifices of all who have and who currently serve in the armed forces of these United States of America. As we begin this celebration of service, we ask your blessing upon it and upon all in attendance today. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Gensel. Please take your seats. At this time, we would like to recognize our distinguished guests who are seated to our right. President of the University of Central Missouri, Dr. Charles Ambrose, U.S. Congresswoman from Missouri's 4th Congressional District, the Honorable Vicki Hartzler, Missouri State Representative from the 120th District, the Honorable Scott Largent, Missouri State Representative from the 44th District, the Honorable Jason Kander, U.S. Army Major General Retired Mike Szymanski, Commander of the 509th Bomb Wing, Whiteman Air Force Base, Brigadier General Vanderham, Commander of the Missouri National Guard, 35th Engineer Brigade, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, General Randy Alwell,
Director of the Missouri State Veterans Home Warrensburg, Eric Ensley, Veterans of Foreign War Department of Missouri Commander and UCM graduate, Olin Parks, American Legion Department of Missouri Commander, Kenny Goff, Commander of VFW Post 2513 of Warrensburg, Brian Lee, Commandant of the Marine Corps League in Warrensburg, Detachment 1374, Stephen Moody.
At this time, I'd like to introduce University of Central Missouri President, Dr. Charles Ambrose.
Good morning. On behalf of the University of Central Missouri, let me welcome you to this day that really began in 1919 with Armistice Day. It was also called Remembrance Day. And I think remembrance is a good opportunity for us to perhaps start context for this ceremony. This is a very important day, and we are humbled to be a part of a community-wide partnership that includes our American Legion, our VFW, Whiteman Air Force Base, the Veterans Home, to welcome you to the multi-purpose building here on our campus. This afternoon, not only do we look backwards in remembrance and appreciation, we also look forward to the future. About active service members and their needs when they return home from deployment, and certainly as more troops return home and become veterans and engaged in the life of our community. If it is Remembrance Day, I think we really think about remembrance at all levels, don't we? As individuals, I think about Veterans Day and my dad. He left high school in 1942 as a 16-and-a-half-year-old. He joined the Navy. He joined up with a destroyer. He spent the next 3.5 years engaged in every major battle of the Pacific. And I miss him today. So I remember him talking about his service and what that meant, and I wish he were here, to talk about it again. Here we are, in a workplace, a college or university. We have several members of our faculty and staff who are veterans, and we appreciate your service. As a community, we turn our attention this morning to 50 years of service to our Vietnam veterans. And you are honored guests on our campus, and we appreciate your service. As a nation, we think about Veterans Day and that transition where Emporia, Kansas kind of turned it from Armistice Day to Veterans Day in 1952 to turn our nation's attention to the sacrifices and commitment that it takes to preserve freedom and certainly liberty across the world. As we're thinking about that future, this afternoon, we're going to open a Military and Veterans Assistance Center on our campus. And that can't be done without the sense that our community is defined by those that serve our country and those that work together to provide service to our country. And this morning, we're very grateful that part of that partnership and sense of community-wide vision is provided to us by General Scott Vanderham. Now, I would call your attention to your program, and it is a very detailed set of really experiences in regards to leadership that General Vanderham, I'm going to confer that doctor's degree on you again. We've done that here on this campus a couple of times. Dr. Vanderham, I guess, that General Vanderham has supplied as the wing commander of the 509th Bomb Wing, which includes the aspects of service to all the multiple missions and joint forces that make up what we call Whiteman Air Force Base. These elements of leadership are demonstrated by a long career of military service and combat service within the Air Force. But there are several things that resumes and combat service records do not provide. I think the easiest way for us as a community to recognize and introduce Scott Vanderham is as leader, as his pilot, as his father and his wife Joanna and their children are here, and most importantly, on a personal level, his friend. The world is really requiring a degree of selfless servanthood to think of how we take who we are and what we do as a nation and utilize our skills and abilities and knowledge to really put in the action of building community and serving those in need. And I could think of no better speaker for us to commemorate a community-wide sense of remembrance of service and appreciation to you as veterans than General Scott Vanderham, and I'd like for you to give him a welcome as he comes and speaks.
Well, good morning. I first want to welcome and acknowledge all of the veterans in attendance today, whether having served one day, 1 year, or an entire career. Your sacrifice and that of your families is why we are here today. And that sacrifice is not taken for granted, and it is not forgotten. Thank you, Dr. Ambrose, for inviting me to your university to celebrate this very special day. It's no greater honor than to give someone a title of significance. And I'll tell you just a quick story. As I was walking around last week and promoting or letting new E8s know that they were promoted to the rank of E9, Chief Master Sergeant, as I walked out one of the buildings and grabbed the hand of one of the chiefs, he says, "Thanks, Chief." And he goes, "I mean, sir." And that is a great honor to be called a chief and something that they look up to in a position. So it's a great honor for me to be called doctor from a guy like Dr. Chuck Ambrose and a community that really puts a value on that education. So it's great to be here. Also welcome Representative Hartzler and our other elected officials at the state and local level, friends and family. As many of you know, the holiday we now celebrate as Veterans Day did start out as Armistice Day to commemorate the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And that was done in 1919 by President Wilson, the day the guns fell silent in Europe and ended World War I. President Wilson, in his proclamation, he announced the creation of that holiday and called it a day of solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service. It wasn't then until 40 years later that Armistice Day became the national holiday we know today and celebrate as Veterans Day. And not far from here, in a little town of Emporia, Kansas, a local businessman named Alvin King had an idea. And that idea was to expand Armistice Day to include all and celebrate all veterans, not just those who died and served in World War I. So what started as a modest campaign spread across the country. And less than a year later, President Eisenhower signed that bill that Chuck already referenced into law, establishing November 11th as Veterans Day. And the ideal on which Veterans Day was established is simple, that we as Americans should take some time on this special day to remember those who fought on our behalf. And the key word in that sentence is remember. For much of the 20th century, the veterans we celebrated were our parents, our grandparents, members of the greatest generation in World War II then who fought Nazism and fascism in Europe and across Asia. And today things are changing. The greatest generation is slipping into memory. And though we have been in a constant state of armed conflict now for 20 years since we were involved in Desert Storm, fewer Americans than ever wear their nation's military uniform. And the burden of service weighs heavily on the shoulders of a very few. The volunteer force today differs only slightly from those who served under a draft. Men and women, then and now, serve side by side in support of national objectives in some of the most dangerous places in the world. Many never made it home, giving their full measure of devotion. It's in times as these, more important than ever, is the support that our service members draw from local communities, civic organizations, churches, and local businesses. This support can be the difference for any person considering a life of service, and the support is indispensable. Now, the support can take many forms. It can be a handshake at the airport, when a soldier returns from Afghanistan or deployment. It can be donations to a USO care package that's going to an airman serving in the area of responsibility. Or it can be, as we have seen here at the University of Central Missouri, a new program designed to make college education easier and more affordable than ever for those serving in the armed forces, our veterans. Later today, Chuck already mentioned, we will dedicate the opening of the University of Central Missouri Veterans Success Center. It's another but very tangible sign of the dedication to our nation's veterans held in the hearts of the people of Central Missouri and this university. I could not be prouder to be here on this day. Before I spend too much time talking about today's veterans, I want to remember one who served his country with distinction in the Great War. Now, Frank Buckles was a Missourian. He was born in Bethany, Missouri, 111 years ago, right at the turn of the century. At the age of 16, he snuck away into the Army and volunteered as an ambulance driver on the Western Front in France. He served bravely and with distinction and returned home. And then in World War II, he was captured by the Japanese while he served on a supply ship in the Pacific. He spent the rest of the war as a prisoner. I first met Mr. Buckles on the 4th of July in 2008 when we were at a celebration together at Mount Rushmore the National Monument near Rapid City, South Dakota. At the time, I was in command of the 28th Bomb Wing, which is in that area. As part of this regional celebration, we honored his service and his life. It was touching, really touching, to see him mix with the next greatest generation, those serving today, those airmen that worked for me and the citizen soldiers in the Guard up there in South Dakota. He listened to them. He talked with them about his life experiences. He was a shining example of resiliency. When Corporal Buckles passed away this last February, he was the last surviving American veteran of World War I. And with his passing, the first major war of the 20th century has slipped past living memory and is now firmly in the pages of history. But on this Veterans Day, we remember Corporal Buckles and the millions of other Americans who faithfully served their country. They've served in times of hardship, away from their families, knowing that at any time they could be called upon to make the ultimate sacrifice. It is this concept, service, that I would like to speak about further today. Now, as long as there have been people, there have been leaders. Some of these leaders we remember and celebrate as great men and women who led their people through times of hardship and adversity. Others we forget as mediocre and incapable. So what separates great leaders from the forgettable? Why do some, like President George Washington, go down in history as the greatest, while others, like the late Muammar Gaddafi, find themselves erased from history by the people they once ruled? I believe the answer lies in a single word: service. Leaders who view themselves servants of their followers and who act in that spirit have the ability to rise above their own limitations. One of the core values of service that all of our services share, whether an airman, a soldier, a sailor, a marine, or a coastie, we put service before self. We are willing to lay down our lives for another. We do so for everyone, even those who ridicule our service in their naivete and their ignorance. We do it and did it for many who couldn't or wouldn't don the uniform because of beliefs, handicaps, a different calling, or just plain cowardice. History is replete with leaders, kings and presidents alike, who first served their people as warriors. I'd like to call your attention to a few of those. David, the son of a humble farmer and shepherd, served the Israelites in battle as a young man. Many of you know that story. It was he who volunteered to face Goliath in the Valley of Elah, and he defeated Goliath there. He championed the cause of the Israelites. He could not stand idly by as this icon blasphemed his God, his country, and his people. Now, many years later, David went on to succeed Saul as the king of Israel. And while David is celebrated as a great king, though he was certainly not without his faults, his greatness was partly because he was a man of deep faith and character, and his actions and his willingness to lead from the front, his obedience and his heart to serve his people crafted him into a leader remembered thousands of years later. In America, we do not celebrate kings as our leaders. Instead, we elect presidents. And time again, we have chosen presidents who served their nation in uniform. George Washington, Andrew Jackson, Dwight Eisenhower, John Kennedy, to name a few, all remembered as great leaders, but also remembered as great servants. So is there some magic in service? Did President George H.W. Bush, did his years as an aviator in the Navy in World War II give him the strengths, traits, and the character qualities necessary to lead his country a half a century later? Did Colin Powell's decades of service in the military, in the Army, culminating as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, did that give him the experience he needed to continue public service as a Secretary of State? Has John McCain's service and incarceration in the Hanoi Hilton, with the likes of Admiral Stockdale and Robbie Reisner and many others, Did that give him the resolve to continue his public service in the United States Senate for so many years? I believe the answer is yes. The service that these great presidents and statesmen rendered early in their lives shaped them. It changed them in ways that enabled them to lead the most powerful nation on earth. Without the experience of their service, I think it's unlikely we would have had any of these great leaders. The list of American leaders, politicians, entertainers, educators, and businessmen who started on the road to success as veterans is indeed long. We learn much in our early years, our formative years out of high school and college, as we don the uniform and take on the disciplines and understand that we are a small part of something very, very large. We are different than those people serving as greeters in some of the stores around here in town. The men and women who don this uniform run towards conflict, not away from it. Very much like your first responders, your firefighters, and your law enforcement officers here. Their DNA is very different, and it's shaped in their early years. We're grateful for that service. We're grateful for that heritage. 10 miles from here at Whiteman Air Force Base, more than 8,000 are serving their country today. Active duty airmen, reserve, and guardsmen, citizen airmen, citizen soldiers, citizen sailors, and their families ready to answer their nation's call. Veterans Day is a day for us to be grateful for the service of those who wear our military's uniform. And today we have before us, in these red seats in front of me, a body of men and women who have served their country with distinction. We owe them a debt of gratitude, a debt of appreciation for their service. Many were not welcomed home like we welcome our veterans home today. One of my favorite quotes that capture the spirit of Veterans Day and the spirit of their service comes from the General of the Continental Army, our first president. General Washington said, "The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive veterans of early wars were treated and appreciated by our nation." I am personally grateful for each and every one of you and each and every one of our veterans that are here today. And it is for you veterans that we have come out on this 11th day, the 11th hour of the 11th month of the 11th year to honor and remember service and sacrifice. So while we commemorate our Veterans Day here in Warrensburg, let us be mindful of those serving right now in foreign lands, those still missing or not able to be with us today because they're being held against their will. To those who paid the ultimate sacrifice and the ultimate price, we honor them by remembering their sacrifices that they made and their family made for a grateful nation. Let us take just a moment to remember them. Chuck, it's institutions and leaders like you and the University of Central Missouri who have taken great steps to recognize the sacrifices of our military families and the support you offer our troops that make serving this country in the heartland of America a sincere privilege. So on behalf of this generation and those in our recent and distant past, let me thank you for making this venue possible today. May God bless America and each of you. Thank you.
Thank you, General Vanderham. We will now honor our Vietnam-era veterans. These men and women served their country during the period of February 28, 1961 to May 7, 1975, the official start and end of our country's military involvement in Vietnam.
To honor our Vietnam veterans, we will have a parade. The veterans will be lined up by year of service. As the veterans parade past the bleachers, they will stop and be recognized individually. Vietnam veterans, please rise. Prepare for parade.
You're watching West Central Web TV, coverage of the 11-11-11 ceremony here at the University of Central Missouri. We've just finished hearing the keynote speaker, Brigadier General Scott Vanderham, 509th Bomb Wing Commander from Whiteman Air Force Base. The Vietnam veterans, as you see on camera now, are filing out of the stands for the parade where each of their names will be mentioned. It looks like we've got about 100 Vietnam veterans here with us today.
Joining us today to read the names of our honored veterans are First Sergeants from Whiteman Air Force Base. They will introduce themselves, read the name of the veterans and branches services.
I am Master Sergeant Stephen Bates, First Sergeant for the 20th Reconnaissance Squadron. I'll be reading names from the 1961 to 1966 year group. Thomas Mellinger, Army and Air Force. Hewitt Donald, United States Air Force. John Beck, United States Navy. Danny Watkins, United States Air Force. Charlie Hurt, United States Army. James Pyatt, United States Air Force.
I'm Master Sergeant Anthony Cannon, First Sergeant for the 509th AMXS, also from the 1961 to 1966 Veterans Group. Mr. John Lynch, U.S. Army. Rosemary Olas, U.S. Air Force. Keith Yoakum, U.S. Army. Brian Eric, U.S. Marine Corps. Gary Bocher, U.S. Marine Corps. And Mel Miller, U.S. Marine Corps.
I'm Master Sergeant Sean Cushman from the 509 Civil Engineer Squadron, and I'm going to announce the Vietnam veterans who served from 1967 to 1968. Billy Bryant, United States Air Force. Steve Larson, United States Marine Corps. Bobby Tubbs, United States Air Force. Bill Lenartz, United States Army. Joe Sloan, United States Marine Corps. Brian Lee, United States Air Force. And Steve Perkins, United States Army.
I'm Master Sergeant Ron Enix from the 509th Force Support Squadron. I will also be reading names from the 1967 to 1968 year group. Michael Collins, U.S. Army. Frank Hillebrand, U.S. Air Force. George Clausen, U.S. Army. Clyde Compton, U.S. Army. Glenn Russell, U.S. Air Force. Olin Parks, U.S. Army. Calvin Summit, U.S. Army. Lynn Lauder, U.S. Marine Corps.
I am Master Sergeant Tim McGee from the 509th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron, and I'm here to introduce the Vietnam veterans who served from 1969 to 1970. Merle Prince, United States Navy. Lester Sandusky, United States Air Force. Bill Aldrich, United States Army. Gary Krasanich, United States Army.
I am Master Sergeant Carrie Ann Pogue from the 509th Security Forces Squadron, and I'm reading names also from the 1969 to 1970 year group. Shelley Bloom, United States Air Force. Robert Bloom, United States Air Force. Stephen Jenny, United States Army. Vi Bielfeldt, United States Air Force and United States Marine Corps. David Tackett, U.S. Navy. Jerry Jacobs, United States Army. Jim Perrin, United States Army. And Janet Van Leven, United States Marine Corps. Roger Pinnell, United States Army.
I am Master Sergeant Robert Rogalski from the 72nd Test and Evaluation Squadron, and I'll be reading the names of the Vietnam veterans who served from 1971 to 1975. Mike Hutchko, United States Air Force. Rod Yeager, United States Air Force. Louis Lockard, United States Air Force. Kenny Goth, United States Navy. Tom McCormick, United States Coast Guard. Greg Katzing, United States Air Force. And Jerry Fitzer, United States Air Force. Bruce Dickerson, United States Navy. Jesse Lee, United States Air Force.
I'm Master Sergeant Randolph Wyatt from the 509th Maintenance Operations Squadron. I'll be also reading the Vietnam veteran errands, the service members from 1971 to 1975 year group. Wally DeZula, Ernest Johnson, Navy, Richard McElroy, Navy, Steve Moody, United States Marine Corps, Steve Nicholson, United States Air Force, Jerry Seelinger, United States Air Force, Phil Shreves, United States Navy, Wayne Harrison, United States Marine Corps, Randall Stoll, United States Navy, Dale Buckingham, United States Air Force.
I left somebody off my list when I was up here, and I apologize for that. He deserves to be recognized. Bobby Tubbs, United States Air Force. Apologize for that.
Okay, please have a seat. It's my honor to introduce our Congresswoman from the Missouri's 4th District to give remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Vicki Hartzler.
Well, good morning. It is an honor to be here today to pay tribute to the heroes who have gone before us and the heroes who walk among us, our veterans. Missouri's 4th Congressional District is proud to be one of our nation's most military-intensive congressional districts and home to tens of thousands of veterans who have served their country with distinction and with honor. The countless sacrifices of our servicemen and women have given to us the freedom and the security and the way of life that it makes our country the greatest country in the world. I feel so blessed to be able to represent and serve this brave group of people in our nation's capital and on the Armed Services Committee. It is so inspiring to get to visit with the many veterans in our district and to hear the stories of their service and their sacrifice. Whether it's greeting the World War II veterans who have come to D.C. as part of an honor flight, or observing this World War II veteran right here sitting on the front row as he greeted all the Vietnam veterans as they came back in. They're a special group of people. Or if it's by visiting with a Korean or Vietnam veteran at a local VFW or American Legion event, or traveling to Afghanistan to personally thank our men and women in uniform fighting today like I did in May of this year, or visiting our wounded warriors at the Walter Reed Hospital on the outskirts of D.C. like I've had the privilege to do. I always come away from these encounters humbled and inspired and thankful to have the privilege of serving these very, very special group of people who wear the uniform of the United States military. And today we're paying special tribute to our Vietnam vets. These heroes are a special group of patriots who served their country with courage, pride, and distinction, and paved the way for future generations to follow their acts of service and valor. Most Americans don't know that 67% of those who served in Vietnam volunteered for service. There was a draft, but most of them signed up for God and country to do their duty for the freedom and liberties we enjoy because others had been willing to serve and now was their time. They wanted to preserve those freedoms for future generations and went willingly as a cohesive unit, fighting bravely and watching each other's backs, co-patriots, fellow soldiers, family. They served with bravery and courage. One Purple Heart recipient I visited with this week told me that at a time his unit was ordered to defend the perimeter of their base camp way on the very outer edge. There had been an explosion of an ammo dump nearby, and he initially thought that it was World War III, but then found out it wasn't and that the enemy was coming, and they rushed down there, and there was a dirt berm around the perimeter there, and they all threw their bodies against that dirt berm and realized that they were almost all out of ammunition. They didn't know what they were going to do, and so his sergeant ordered him a very simple order. He pointed to him, he said, "Get ammo, run." And he ran as fast as he could, but as he ran, he heard the sounds of all of his fellow soldiers in the back clicking on their bayonets. There wasn't an order to do so. They all just did it immediately. They did it instinctively. They were willing to fight hand to hand if they had to for their country, and they were going to do it willingly. And that encouraged him. He was able to get the ammo and get back in time, and the enemy was averted. But that is courage. That's self-sacrifice. That's valor in the face of danger. These soldiers displayed acts of unselfish valor like that. Bob Wannell, the past commander of the Missouri VFW, sent me an article a while back about his hero that I wanted to share with you a little bit about. It's Carlos Hathcock. He was a Marine, but he grew up a boy from rural Arkansas, like many of us here in Missouri can relate to. But he grew up hunting to feed his family. They were very poor. But he became a marksman through doing that. And he later became one of America's top snipers with an extraordinary service record of 93 confirmed kills and many more besides that. He completed mission after dangerous mission, many times, sometimes crawling on his belly for miles through enemy territory to reach his target and getting his target, and in the process saving countless American lives as a result. He was noted for wearing a white feather in the band of his bush hat and was given the name White Feather by the Viet Cong. They put a price out for his life and sent Vietnamese snipers out with an order to find and to kill Hathcock. Knowing of the danger to their comrade and the value of his skill and his service, many of his fellow Marines in the same area began donning white feathers and wearing in their hats as well to deceive the enemy. They took it upon themselves, not being ordered to do so, but because they chose to, for the greater good, to put their own lives in danger. That's selfless valor. Yet our nation let these heroes down. They were brought back to the States with no reentry orientation or evaluation for PTSD. One vet told me how he was let off at a bus stop with only his duffel bag in hand and no thanks for his service. They were spat on, called names, and scorned. There were no ticker tape parades for these warriors, to our nation's shame. Yet, they carried on. They became leaders of the community, professors at universities like this one. They built businesses. They raised children to love and serve their country. and continue to stand strong for freedom and liberty today as positive examples of service, duty, and honor in our communities. We owe them, we owe you, a debt of gratitude that our country will never be able to repay. So on this day, on behalf of the good people of the 4th District of Missouri and of a grateful nation, I'd like to say something to you, the Vietnam veterans here today. Welcome home. Thank you for your service. May God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Congressman Hartzler. Sorry, Congresswoman Hartzler. For your remarks and for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. The UCM Faculty Brass Quintet will now play a medley of each of our 5 service songs. If you are a veteran, please stand or raise your hand when your service song is played.
The U.S. Army, U.S. Marine Corps, U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Coast Guard,
Please rise as our honor guard exits the building and performs the 3-volley salute. Taps will be played after the salute by Dr. Alan Wenger and Dr. David Alberg of the Faculty Brass Quintet.
I would like to point out that our honor guard is a joint honor guard made up from Whiteman Air Force Base Honor Guard and members of the American Legion and VFW. Included in the honor guard is a representative from each of our war eras: World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and our current wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Please remain standing for our closing prayer by Chaplain Gensel and the retiring of the colors.
Let us pray. Our God, as we bring this celebration to a close, let us never forget the price that has been paid by so many so that we can come together. We celebrate today with our veterans. We remember those who paid the ultimate price, those who carry the scars of battle, both seen and unseen, those who paved the way, and those who are charting the course for the next generation of airmen, soldier, sailor, Marine, and Coast Guardsmen. We remember also today the families who sent sons and daughters, husbands and wives, fathers and mothers to protect our freedoms and our way of life. As we think about those who have served and extend to them our gratitude and thanks, let us never forget that we are the United States, united around the cause of freedom, justice, and liberty for all. Amen.
Thank you for coming to today's event. It is important that our nation remember among its citizens have fought and continues to fight to keep our nation free. I would like to close with a short poem by George Skypeck in honor of the day. As an Army officer, it's focused more on soldiers, but you can replace airman, Navy, sailor, or Marine with it, or Coast Guardsman. I was that which others did not want to be. I went where others feared to go, and did what others failed to do. I asked nothing from those who gave nothing, and reluctantly accepted the thought of eternal loneliness should I fail. I have seen the face of terror, felt the stinging cold of fear, and enjoyed the sweet taste of a moment's love. I have cried, pained, and hoped, but most of all, I have lived times that others would say were best forgotten. At least someday I will be able to say I was proud of what I was, a soldier.
On behalf of the veterans organizations represented here today, we would like to thank Dr. Ambrose and the UCM staff for hosting this event. Congresswoman Hartzler and Brigadier General Vanderham, thank you for your participation. A big thanks to our military volunteers who assisted today. A final thanks to our Vietnam era veterans for your service to our nation. As you exit the building and parking lots, please walk and drive safely, and thanks for attending our ceremony.